the knife pressed against my throat, cold and unyielding, as Gregory's breath hot against my ear whispered, "You think you can run from me forever, pup?" Rain hammered the alley like gunfire, turning the Chicago pavement into a river of regret. And in that split second, I realized the lie I'd built my life on was unraveling faster than the stitches in my heart. But freedom isn't given. It's clawed from the jaws of the pack, and tonight, I'd bite back. I wasn't born to lead. In the shadowed underbelly of the Windy City, where the packs ruled from penthouses to back alley dens, being a beta meant you were invisible until you weren't. My name's Elias, and from the moment my first shift hit at 13, awkward, incomplete, no alpha roar to claim territory, I knew I was marked for scraps. Alphas like Gregory Blackwood, with their chiseled jaws and eyes like storm clouds, they inherited power like old money. Effortless, entitled, the kind that made lesser wolves kneel without a word. Me, I got the scraps. The errands, the enforcer grunt work, the endless proving ground where one wrong glance got you exiled or worse. Growing up in the crumbling warehouses of Pilsen, my pack was a ragtag empire of immigrant shifters who'd fled the old country's turf wars for America's promise of reinvention. Dad was a beta too, a quiet mechanic who fixed Harleys for the alphas until a bad moon debt got him ripped apart in a territory skirmish. Mom? She vanished into the human world before I could ask why, leaving me with a locket that held a photo of her smiling like she believed in second chances. I learned early, disguise or die. By 16, I'd honed my scent masking, herbs from the Botanica on Halstead, layered with cologne swiped from corner stores, to pass as a low-rung alpha. It wasn't perfect. Close quarters still betrayed the faint beta musk, like wet earth after a storm. But it bought me entry into the Blackwood Pack, the most ruthless crew west of the Loop, where power wasn't just survival, it was spectacle. Gregory noticed me first during a full moon rumble in Grant Park. The air crackled with howls and the metallic tang of blood as rival packs clashed over a smuggling route through the Calumet River. I was there as muscle, my borrowed alpha snarl echoing hollow in my chest. He was a force. 6'4" of coiled fury, dark hair slicked back, tattoos of claw marks snaking up his arms like war paint. One enforcer from the East Side Wolves lunged at him, fangs bared, and Gregory sidestepped with that lazy grace, snapping the guy's neck like kindling. Then his eyes, steel gray, piercing, locked on mine across the fray. "You!" he barked, pointing a bloodied finger. "Finish it." I did, tackling the limp body and dragging it into the shadows, my heart pounding not from the kill, but from the weight of his gaze. It lingered, appraising, like he saw something worth salvaging in the mud. That night, over cheap whiskey in a dive bar off Division Street, he pulled me aside. "What's your story, kid? You move like you've got alpha blood, but your scent's off, like rain on concrete." I froze, the lie ready on my tongue. "Bad flu, boss. Moon sickness." He laughed, a deep rumble that vibrated through the scarred wooden booth, clapping my shoulder hard enough to bruise. "Flattery won't save you, but grit might. Stick close. I need wolves who think before they bite." And just like that, I was in his inner circle, the beta pup playing alpha enforcer, my disguise of fragile armor against the pack's primal hierarchy. The Blackwoods weren't just wolves. They were a dynasty, blending old-world pack lore with Chicago's cutthroat capitalism. Gregory's father, Old Man Harlan, had clawed his way from the stockyards to owning half the logistics firms along the I-94 corridor, laundering territory grabs through shell companies. Alphas ran the show. Enforcers like Kenneth Voss, Gregory's right hand with a smile sharp as broken glass, handled the dirty deals. Extortion rackets disguised as protection for immigrant businesses. Hits on rivals framed as gang violence to keep the cops off our backs. Betas like me, we were the glue. Scouting runs through the L trains, forging papers for new recruits from the barrios, always one slip from being culled for weakness. Kenneth was the first to suspect. Tall and lean, with blonde hair cropped military short and eyes like chipped ice, he embodied the pack's cold efficiency. We'd bonded over late-night stakeouts in the shadow of the Willis Tower, sharing smokes and stories of lost packs. "You're too soft for this life, Elias," he'd say, exhaling smoke rings that curled like nooses. "Alphas take, betas beg." I laughed it off, but his words gnawed, especially when he'd linger too close, his alpha scent, pine and gunmetal, clashing with my masked neutrality. There was a hunger in him, not just for power, but for something unspoken, a pull that made my skin prickle. In the pack's twisted code, alphas didn't court betas. They claimed them or broke them. I buried it deep, focusing on Gregory's rare approvals. A nod after a clean heist, the brush of his hand during briefings that sent sparks through my veins. Love crept in like fog off Lake Michigan. Slow, enveloping, impossible to shake. It started with stolen moments. After a raid on a South Side warehouse, we'd collapse on the rooftop of our safe house in Wicker Park, city lights sprawling below like a glittering trap. He'd strip off his shirt, scars from old battles mapping his chest like constellations, and talk. Not orders, but truths. This life's a cage, Elias. Father's dying, and the pack expects me to wear the crown, but all I see is chains. His voice cracked, vulnerable in the alpha armor, and I'd listen, my beta heart aching to mend what power had fractured. One night, under a sliver of moon, he turned to me, his hand cupping my jaw. You see me, don't you? Not the air, just Greg. The kiss was fire, desperate, tasting of bourbon and blood, sealing a bond that defied pack law. We were careful. No marks, no sense mingled, just whispered promises in the dark. When I'm alpha, he'd murmur against my skin. We rewrite the rules. No more hiding. But hiding was my specialty, and it frayed at the edges. Kenneth's suspicions sharpened during a botched deal in Chinatown. A rival alpha, Marco Ruiz from the Westtown crew, ambushed our convoy, bullets ripping through the night like thunder. I took a graze to the shoulder, adrenaline surging as I shifted mid-fight. My beta formed smaller, quicker, dodging claws that should have felled an alpha. Gregory roared approval later, bandaging me in the back of the Escalade, his touch lingering. My hero, he teased. But Kenneth's eyes narrowed from the driver's seat, mirror reflecting his calculating stare. That night, alone in my cramped apartment off Milwaukee Avenue, I caught my reflection. Hollow cheeks, eyes shadowed by lies. The locket from Mom swung heavy around my neck, a talisman against the unraveling. The betrayal hit like a silver bullet, swift and searing. It was 2 weeks after the ambush, during the pack's annual convergence at Harlan's Lakeside estate in Evanston. A sprawling Tudor mansion where alphas postured over steaks and scotch, betas serving in the wings. The air hummed with territorial piss scents and undercurrents of alliance shifts, old Harlan wheezing from his throne-like armchair. His once iron frame withered by the cancer eating him from the inside. Gregory stood at his side, groomed successor, while Kenneth prowled the edges, ever the shadow enforcer. I was tasked with perimeter watch, my alpha guys holding as I patrolled the fog-enshrouded lawns, the lake lapping like a predator's tongue. That's when I overheard them. Kenneth's voice, low and venomous, filtering through the French doors. He's no alpha, Harlan. Sense beta through and through. Been masking it with that street witch crap. A pause, then Harlan's rasp. Proof boy. Or it's your hide. Kenneth's laugh was silk over steel. Got it. Tonight. My blood iced. Flight instinct screamed, but loyalty to Gregory rooted me. I slipped inside through a side entrance, heart hammering, only to find the study empty. Harlan retired, Kenneth vanished into the night. I found Gregory on the balcony overlooking the dark waters, nursing a tumbler. His profile etched against the city skyline twinkling distant. Elias, he said without turning, voice heavy. Something's wrong. Father's talking succession, but Kenneth, he's pushing for a challenge. Says there's weakness in the ranks. I stepped close, our shoulders brushing, the electric hum of our secret bond igniting. It's me, I confessed, the words tumbling like stones down a well. I'm the weakness. Beta-born, Alpha pretended. If they find out. His hand gripped mine fierce. Then we fight. Together. No pack's worth losing you. The kiss that followed was a vow, deep and devouring. His alpha strength tempered by the tenderness only I knew. For a moment, the world narrowed to us. Two souls adrift in a sea of fangs and ambition. But moments shatter. Footsteps echoed. Kenneth, bursting through the doors, eyes blazing with triumph. There it is! He snarled, nostrils flaring as he caught the mingled scents on the air. Traitor and pretender. Harlan's called the circle. Gregory shoved me behind him, shifting partial. Claws extending, growl rumbling like thunder. Stand down, Voss. This is pack business, not yours. Kenneth's smile twisted, revealing fangs. Oh, it's mine now. Been waiting for you to slip. Blackwood. Always too soft for the crown. The enforcers poured in, summoned by his howl. Hulking alphas loyal to the old guard. Their eyes on me like fresh meat. The circle formed in the grand hall. Persian rugs rolled back to bare oak floors stained with histories of spilled blood. Harlan presided, frail but unyielding, gavel in hand. An antique revolver etched with pack runes. Elias Kane, he intoned, voice gravel. Charged with deception. Penalty, exile or cull. Gasps rippled. Betas in the corners averted eyes, knowing our fates intertwined. Gregory stepped forward, chest heaving. Father, no. He's one of us. Fought harder than half your enforcers. Harlan's gaze softened fractionally, then hardened. Love blinds, son. Pack survives on truth. Kenneth circled me like a shark, his proximity a violation. Alpha musk overwhelming my masking herbs. Tell them, he hissed, close enough for his breath to ghost my ear. Tell them how you begged for scraps, pup. How you spread for favors. Lies, vicious barbs to wound. But the hall murmured, doubt seeding. I held Gregory's stare across the circle, his anguish a mirror to mine. I did what I had to, I said, voice steady despite the quake inside. Born beta doesn't mean born broken. I earned my place. Blood, sweat, no handouts. Cheers from the younger wolves, but Harlan banged the gavel. Guilty. Exile at dawn. Gregory lunged, but enforcers restrained him. Kenneth's smug grin the final cut. As they dragged me to the cells below, a damp basement reeking of fierce sweat, I caught Kenneth's parting whisper. You were mine first, Elias. Should have chosen better. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving, the estate's gates yawning like a grave. Chain silver cuffs bit my wrists, muting my shift, as Kenneth led the procession. Harlan too weak to attend, Gregory forbidden. The pack watched from the drive, faces a blur of judgment and pity. Run far, beta? Kenneth mocked, unlocking the cuffs with deliberate slowness, his fingers brushing my skin like a claim denied. Or crawl back. I might forgive. Hatred surged, hot and clarifying. I rubbed my wrists, sent flooding free, pure beta. Unmasked, unashamed. Gregory broke through then, enforcers shrugging him off in the chaos, wrapping me in a desperate embrace. I'll find you, he vowed, lips fierce against mine, uncaring of the witnesses. Burn the pack if I must. Our scents entwined, a defiant mark, and for the first time, I felt alpha in his fire. Not blood, but choice. I fled into the mist-shrouded suburbs, hitching rides on milk trucks toward the sprawl of Joliet, mind racing. Exile meant no territory, no protection. Human cities crawled with lone wolves, scavengers who'd cull a beta for sport. But freedom whispered too, the open road, a life beyond the pack's chokehold. I ditched the wolf gear for thrift store jeans and a hoodie, blending into the human tide at a Greyhound station. Days blurred. Bus hops to St. Louis, crashing in flop houses. Odd jobs washing dishes in diners where the grease mirrored my fractured reflection. Nights brought dreams of Gregory's touch, Kenneth's sneer, the pack's howl echoing like loss. 2 months in, scraping by in a Kansas City warehouse district, word reached me via a burner phone Gregory smuggled out. Succession war, Harlan dead, Kenneth challenging me. Hold on. My heart clenched. Love's tether, pulling taut. I couldn't abandon him, not to that viper. Disguise renewed. I scavenged alpha pheromones from a black market apothecary, layering them over my beta core, hitchhiking back east. The journey clawed at me. Storms in Ohio flats, close calls with state troopers sniffing out the unnatural. By the time I hit the Indiana border, resolve hardened. I'd return not as pretender, but as reckoning. Chicago welcomed me with autumn bite, leaves carpeting the alleys like fallen soldiers. The pack's empire teetered. Whispers from corner newsstands spoke of mob hits on logistics depots. Kenneth's bid for control, framing Gregory as weak. I infiltrated via old contacts, a beta informant in a Logan Square laundromat slipping me a map to the showdown. Tonight, under the harvest moon, in the abandoned Union stockyards, the air would reek of rust and reckoning. I arrived as dusk bled into night, the stockyards a skeletal labyrinth of rusted chutes and barbed wire, ghosts of cattle lowing in the wind. My pulse thrummed primal, beta instincts screaming retreat, but Gregory's face, haunted, hopeful in memory, drove me forward. Scaling a chain-link fence, I shed the hoodie, shifting partial to heightened senses. Ears pricking at distant howls, nose sifting the medley of fear and fury. The circle was etched in the dirt arena, floodlights jury-rigged from semis casting long shadows, the pack arrayed in tense semicircles, loyalists to Gregory on one flank, Kenneth's mercenaries on the other. He was there, center stage. Gregory, stripped to the waist, muscles taut under the lights, eyes scanning the crowd until they found mine. Shock flickered, then fire. Love's beacon cutting the gloom. Elias? He breathed, audible only to me, a thread of hope. Across from him, Kenneth paced, shirtless and oiled, scars from our shared battles gleaming like trophies. His gaze snagged on me too, lips curling in predatory delight. The pup returns. Come to watch your lover bleed. The challenge erupted without preamble. Harlan's rights demand blood for the crown. They collided mid-arena, alphas in full shift. Fur rippling, claws raking, fangs snapping in a blur of savagery. Gregory was power incarnate, lunging with calculated fury, pinning Kenneth against a corral post with a crack of splintering wood. But Kenneth was cunning, slippery, twisting free, countering with slashes that drew crimson ribbons across Gregory's flank. The pack roared, bets flying like sparks, but I saw the feint. Kenneth's eyes darting to me, calculating. This wasn't just for Alpha. It was personal, a grudge born of rejection. My heart the prize he'd never win. As Gregory faltered, winded and bleeding, Kenneth pressed. Yield, Blackwood. Your beta's curse weakens you. Lies, but they stung, the crowd murmuring. Rage ignited. I vaulted the barrier, ignoring the enforcer's grabs, bursting into the circle uninvited. A beta's gravest sin. Enough! My howl cracked the night, raw and unmasked, sent blooming free. Earth and storm, no disguise. Gasps rippled. Kenneth whirled, laughing. Interloper! Cull him! But Gregory staggered up, blocking his path, our eyes locking in silent accord. What followed was chaos woven with clarity. Enforcers lunged, but the younger wolves, those I'd mentored in shadows, hesitated, loyalty fracturing. I dodged claws, beta speed my edge, tackling a brute mid-leap to shield Gregory. Pain bloomed, fangs grazing my arm, but adrenaline surged, and I fought not as pretender, but as equal. Fists and cunning over brute force. Kenneth broke free, charging me directly, his shift a whirlwind of blonde fur and malice. You should have been mine, he snarled, pinning me to the bloodied earth, claws at my throat mirroring that alley night months ago. His eyes held not just hate, but hurt, a twisted love I'd glimpsed in stakeout confessions, rejected for Gregory's light. Never, I gasped, knee driving up, catching him off guard. We rolled, dust choking, until Gregory's roar split the fray. Leaping atop us, wrenching Kenneth free in a tangle of limbs and fury. The three of us devolved into a maelstrom. Alpha against alpha, beta weaving strikes, the circle dissolving into pack-wide brawl. Fists flew, howls mingled with human shouts, the stockyards alive with the packs unraveling. In the melee, truth spilled. Kenneth confessed, mid-grapple with Gregory. I scented you first, Elias. Loved you in the shadows. But you chose the weak air. Betrayal's root. Jealousy. Not just power, but a heart spurned in silence. The tide turned on a knife's edge. Gregory, drawing on reserves, landed a blow that shattered Kenneth's jaw, sending him crumpling. Enforcers backed off, the crowd shifting. Whispers of the beta fight's true, rippling like wind. Kenneth rose once more, staggering, eyes wild. Kill me, then. End it. But Gregory hesitated, fist raised, anguish etching his face. No more blood for thrones, Voss. Your pack. Choose. In that mercy, the old ways cracked. Kenneth spat blood, gaze flicking to me, resignation dawning. For the pack, he muttered, yielding with a kneel. The alpha challenge broken not by death, but grace. Dawn painted the yards gold as the pack reconvened, battered and breathless. Gregory stood unopposed, crown claimed, but his first decree echoed humanistic. No more disguises. Betas rise as they are. Strength in truth, not scent. Eyes turned to me, not with scorn, but respect. I'd unmasked, fought, survived. Kenneth bruised and bound for penance. Exile of his own to wander and reflect. Met my gaze one last time. Forgive the fool, he rasped, a ghost of vulnerability breaking through. I nodded, not absolution, but understanding. Love's shadows twist us all. Gregory pulled me aside as the pack dispersed, the city awakening around us. Horns blaring distant, gulls wheeling over the river. You came back, he said, voice thick, hands framing my face. My freedom. Our kiss was sunrise, soft, certain, scented with possibility. No more hiding. We'd lead together, reforming the pack into something American dream forged. Diverse, defiant, where power served the vulnerable, not devoured them. Betas like my father, lost to old cruelties, would find justice in our code. Alphas like Kenneth, redeemed or reformed, a chance at light. Months later, under a quiet moon in our new safe house overlooking the lake, Gregory proposed. Not with rings, but vows etched in a shared journal, pages filled with our scars and dreams. Claim your place, Elias. Beside me. I did, beta heart full. The locket from Mom now joined by one from him. Silver wolf, unbowed. Freedom isn't escape. It's the courage to stand unmasked. Love the rebellion that topples empires. In Chicago's endless sprawl, we'd build ours, one honest howl at a time. And as winter winds howled off the water, carrying sense of change, I knew. Born beta, I claimed alpha in the only way that mattered, through the heart's unyielding fight.